Choice, where a new experiential direction begins. Expectation prepares the future your system believes is coming. Choice determines how you participate in what comes next. You may not control every event, person, condition, or outcome, but within the conditions you encounter, there is often some point where direction becomes available. That point is choice. Within Altus human systems, choice is where an internal preference begins becoming an experiential direction. You may prefer honesty. Choice determines whether you communicate honestly. You may prefer self-respect. Choice determines whether your behavior expresses it. You may prefer change. Choice determines whether you continue supporting the familiar pattern or begin expressing something different. Everything we have examined so far influences choice. Definition, meaning, belief, identity, state, perception, expectation. Together, they shape what appears possible. Choice selects from what you can currently see. And once something is selected, the internal system begins moving toward physical expression. But choice does not mean unlimited control. Physical reality contains real conditions. Other people make their own choices. Resources may be limited. Bodies have limits. Institutions, laws, finances, relationships, and circumstances can restrict what is immediately possible. Choice does not erase limitation. It identifies participation within limitation. So the useful question is not, why did I choose all of this? It is, within what is happening now, what part of my participation is actually available to me? Sometimes the choice is large. Stay or leave. Accept or decline. Speak or remain silent. Begin or stop. Sometimes the choice is much smaller. Ask one question. Wait before responding. Gather more information. Clarify an agreement. Recognize that an assumption is not yet a fact. Prepare for a change that cannot happen today. A small choice can still represent a major shift in direction. Suppose someone feels trapped in a work situation. They cannot immediately leave. They need the income. Other employment is not yet available. Those conditions are real, but choices may still exist inside the limitation. Document what is happening. Ask for clarification. Stop volunteering for responsibilities that are not required. Gather information about other positions. Develop a skill. Begin preparing for a future change. None of those actions instantly removes the larger condition, but they change the person's participation within it. Often, a new direction begins exactly this way. Not through one dramatic escape from every limitation, through one choice that stops treating the current condition as the only possible future. Choice becomes difficult when the operating system presents only extremes. Say nothing or destroy the relationship. Say yes or become selfish. Stay here or lose everything. Succeed perfectly or fail completely. Trust completely or trust no one. When only two extreme options appear, perception may be narrowed by an underlying definition. There may be another choice. Ask a question. Delay the decision. Request different conditions. Participate partially. Decline one part. Gather more information. Allow someone else to respond before deciding what their response means. A wider perception often creates a wider field of choice. That does not mean there is always a good option. Sometimes every available choice carries a consequence you would prefer to avoid. That is still choice. Someone may say, I have no choice but to say yes. What they may actually mean is, the consequences of saying no currently feel less acceptable than the consequences of saying yes. That distinction matters. It acknowledges pressure, without erasing participation. The person may still choose yes, but now the choice is visible, and once it is visible, it can be examined. Choice is also different from preference. Preference describes what you want. Choice reveals what you are currently supporting. A person may prefer a healthy relationship while repeatedly participating in a dynamic they define as unhealthy. Prefer rest while choosing constant availability. Prefer visibility while continuing to hide. Prefer honest communication while saying, I'm fine, when they are not. The preference may be completely sincere, But another belief or expected consequence is organizing the choice. Suppose someone wants honest relationships, but believes honesty creates conflict, and conflict creates rejection. Now, concealment makes sense. The choice is not random. It is compatible with the operating system currently active. The new direction begins when the person makes one choice compatible with the experience they actually prefer. That might sound like, I said I was fine, but I need to correct that. Something is bothering me, and I want to explain it clearly. That choice does not guarantee agreement. It does not guarantee approval. It does not guarantee the relationship will continue. It expresses compatibility with honesty. This is the difference between choosing a direction and controlling an outcome. You can choose clear communication. You cannot choose another person's response. You can choose a boundary. You cannot choose whether someone approves of it. You can choose to submit the work. You cannot choose the decision made by the audience, employer, or institution. You can choose the direction of your participation. You cannot control the entire field. Confusing choice with control makes many meaningful choices appear impossible. A person refuses to speak honestly because they cannot guarantee the conversation will go well. They avoid creating because they cannot guarantee appreciation. They avoid setting a boundary because they cannot guarantee the relationship will remain unchanged. If certainty is required before choice, movement stops. A more stable definition is, I can choose the direction of my participation and respond to the information that follows. Choice also does not require the absence of fear. You can choose clearly while afraid. Set a boundary while feeling guilty. Begin while uncertain. Speak while your voice shakes. Leave something familiar while grieving what it represented. Waiting until every uncomfortable feeling disappears can preserve the old direction indefinitely. The better question is, which choice most accurately represents the direction I prefer, given the information and capacity available now? That does not mean ignoring emotion. Fear may contain useful information. Guilt may reveal a real concern. Uncertainty may indicate that more information is needed. Emotion should be examined. It does not automatically make the entire decision. Sometimes the clearest choice is yes, sometimes no, sometimes not yet. Sometimes, I need more information before deciding. Conscious choice does not require immediate movement. It identifies the most accurate next direction. This is also where the Altus principle follow what is most alive requires precision. What is most alive is not simply whatever feels most intense. Intensity can come from fear, urgency, familiarity, drama. An unavailable relationship can feel intense. An impulsive opportunity can feel intense. A threat can feel intense. Following what is most alive means noticing the direction containing the clearest genuine relevance, energy, curiosity, integrity, or natural movement available to you, and applying discernment. It does not mean abandoning evidence, agreements, responsibility, or physical reality. Suppose two opportunities appear. One creates dramatic excitement, but involves unclear conditions and unreliable people. The other feels quieter but includes clear agreements, appropriate timing, and genuine interest. The latter option is not automatically the more compatible one. Complete information matters. Choice requires both internal recognition and practical evaluation. Within the parallel reality model, choice selects an experiential direction. One isolated choice does not instantly create an entirely different life. A choice begins direction. Repeated compatible choices create continuity. Suppose someone has always remained silent because disagreement was associated with abandonment. One day they express a clear preference. Fear may still be present. The old expectation may still be active, but something new has entered the system. Whatever happens next provides information that automatic silence could never provide. Perhaps the other person listens. Perhaps they disagree respectfully. Perhaps they react badly. In every case, the choice produces new information. Repeated choices can then begin changing earlier parts of the operating system. This is important. The system is not only belief, identity, state, perception, expectation, choice. Choice also produces experience. Experience creates feedback. Feedback can update belief, identity, state, perception, and expectation. The system is a cycle. Suppose someone believes, "I cannot handle rejection." Because of that belief, they never ask directly for what they want. They also never discover what happens when the answer is no. Eventually, they make a clear request. The answer is no. They are disappointed. But they remain present. They make another decision. Now the system has new information. Rejection was painful. It was not the end of participation. The choice created experience. The experience challenged the belief. This is why a compatible choice is not valuable only when it produces the desired result. Someone may communicate honestly and discover incompatibility. Set a boundary and lose a relationship that depended on the absence of boundaries. Submit work and receive criticism. Leave a familiar role and encounter uncertainty. The outcome may be uncomfortable. The choice may still represent increased compatibility with honesty, clarity, self-respect, or growth. The success of a choice cannot be measured only by whether other people cooperated with it. But that does not remove responsibility for consequences. Calling something a conscious choice does not automatically make it accurate. A person can communicate honestly and still communicate carelessly. Claim freedom while ignoring legitimate obligations. Call something a boundary when it is actually an attempt to control another person. Choice requires discernment. Ask, what is observable? What am I assuming? What agreements already exist? Who is affected? What consequences are reasonably predictable? Does this choice respect the authority and freedom of other people? Does it actually represent the direction I claim to prefer? Conscious choice is deliberate participation, not impulse with better branding. Choice can also be distorted by the desire for immediate relief. Anxiety appears, so reassurance is demanded. Guilt appears, so the boundary is reversed. Uncertainty appears, so a premature decision is made. Visibility feels uncomfortable, so the work is removed. The action reduces discomfort, but it may also reinforce the belief that the discomfort was dangerous and had to be escaped. The short-term choice preserves the long-term pattern. A useful question is, am I choosing my preferred direction or the fastest removal of this feeling? Sometimes immediate relief is appropriate. If a situation is unsafe, leaving may be necessary. If the system is overloaded, stopping may be the accurate choice. The point is not to glorify discomfort. It is to recognize when familiarity is quietly being chosen over direction. A pause can also be a legitimate choice. Waiting is not automatically avoidance. A conscious pause might say, I am waiting until tomorrow because I want more information and a clearer state. Avoidance says, I will keep waiting because no amount of readiness will ever feel sufficient. A conscious pause has a reason and a point of review. Avoidance continually moves the decision away. Choice can also be outsourced. Other people can provide valuable information. Expert knowledge may be necessary. Feedback may reveal something you missed. But information is not the same as authority. If you keep asking people what you should do until someone gives you certainty, the choice may become externally authorized but internally unexamined. Another person is also advising through their own beliefs and priorities. Someone who fears risk may always recommend safety. Someone who values stability may discourage change. Someone who benefited from your old role may dislike your new boundary. Advice is information. It is not automatic instruction. Personal authority means considering relevant information and determining what fits the actual situation. Another common trap is believing there must be one perfect choice. Many choices cannot be fully evaluated before participation. You gather reasonable information. Choose the most compatible direction currently available. Observe what happens. Then choose again. Some choices are experiments. Some are provisional. Some can be adjusted when new information appears. You do not always need to choose the entire future. You may only need to choose the next accurate step. You may not know whether a relationship should continue forever. You may know that one conversation needs to happen. You may not know whether a new field should become your permanent career. You may know that one project can be explored. You may not know where an entire direction leads. You may know what is available today. The human operating system often demands a complete future before permitting the present choice. But the future is experienced through present directions. You do not need every answer in order to select the next step. This is what it means to follow what is most alive as far as it can reasonably go. Notice the direction carrying genuine relevance. Act within your actual capacity. Use the resources and information currently available. Observe the feedback. Then choose again. The path becomes visible through participation. Choice also communicates. Choosing to respond immediately communicates availability. Repeatedly avoiding an issue communicates that the current arrangement can continue. Setting a boundary communicates the conditions of participation. Remaining in a situation after recognizing an incompatibility also communicates something through continued participation. This does not mean other people will interpret every choice accurately, but choice still enters the shared world as information. For the same reason, not choosing can maintain a direction. Someone refuses to decide whether to address a relationship problem. Months pass. The current arrangement continues. Someone postpones a project while waiting for perfect confidence. The postponement becomes continuity. Someone continually avoids a needed boundary. The existing access remains in place. Inaction is not always neutral. The useful question is, what direction is being maintained while this decision remains unmade? This is also where responsibility becomes practical. You may not be responsible for definitions you learned as a child. You may not be responsible for another person's behavior. You may not have chosen the original conditions that produced a pattern. But once the pattern becomes visible, choice begins entering the process. Responsibility does not require condemnation. It means recognizing where present participation has become available. The old pattern may be completely understandable. The question is whether the old rule still needs to govern the present. To examine choice, select one situation where you feel stuck. Ask, what do I believe my choices are? Write them exactly as they currently appear. Perhaps, stay silent or create conflict. Say yes or disappoint them. Do it perfectly or do not begin. Stay here or lose security. Then ask, are these truly the only options, or the only options visible from my current belief and state? Look for one additional possibility. Ask for clarification. Give a partial yes. Give a respectful no. Gather information. Delay the decision until a specific time. Take one preparatory step. State a preference without demanding agreement. Sometimes the third option changes the entire structure. Then ask, which available choice most accurately expresses the direction I prefer? Not the choice that guarantees comfort. Not the choice that controls everyone else. Not the choice that sounds most impressive. The one that creates the greatest consistency between what you say you prefer and how you are actually participating. Finally ask, what is the smallest physical expression of that choice? Send the message, ask the question, write the first page, state the limit, gather the information, wait until tomorrow instead of reacting now. One physical expression moves choice out of theory. Choice is where a preferred direction becomes participation. It does not give you control over every result. It gives you a position from which to engage what is available. You may face limitation, uncertainty, consequences. Conscious choice does not remove them. It determines what direction your participation will express within them. Definition establishes the rule. Meaning applies it. Belief gives it authority. Identity establishes who you are within it. State establishes your internal position. Perception determines what becomes visible. Expectation prepares for what comes next. Choice selects a direction. And once a direction has been selected, it begins entering the shared world. One of the first places it becomes visible is communication. Because what you choose internally eventually becomes information through what you say, what you withhold, how you respond, and what you make known. That is where the operating system moves next. Stay stable. Pay attention. Reality is speaking.